Infiniti is one of the last names you'd think of when talking about compact cars. But now the luxury division of Nissan Renault is indeed entering this segment, albeit with a little help from a rival. A car reviewer recalls the old saying that you can't pick your family. That's not quite true in the automotive world. Infiniti has embarked on a collaboration with Daimler to jointly develop new models. The Q30 is a kind of twin brother of the A-Class, although from the exterior, it looks completely different, thank God. The Q30 boasts a design more radical than anything else in the class. Its body is replete with curves and creases. Standing 1.48 meters tall, the Q30 is head-to-head with the Mercedes GLA. The latter does have more cargo space, though, with the Infiniti packing in just 368 liters with the back seat up. The loading sill is at a convenient level, so you don't have to bend too much, and the trunk is nice and wide. The only minor disappointment is the slightly stiff tailgate mechanism, but otherwise it's a very practical car. The materials deployed for the interior are certainly up to the brand's luxury standards. The front cabin has an original design, but does also include a lot of parts taken from Mercedes. And from the engines to the four-wheel drive available with some additions, everything comes from the A-Class. The Q30 Sport with a 155 kilowatt 2-liter turbocharged engine will set you back at least 40,000 euros.
The
Q30 is a little higher than most other compact cars, explains André, shifting it towards the crossover segment. That means you can always keep your eye on the road, thanks to the high seating position. You always have a nice view of the double-wave hood, and always have a sound feel of how long the car is up front. Otherwise, the handling is comfortable enough without feeling too soft. The suspension in the sports version is 7% stiffer than the regular edition. The designers at Infiniti also ensured there would be the right suspension setup for the varying engine weights. That integrated approach to development is intended to translate into a superior driving experience. A bit of SUV, a bit of coupe, and a bit of Mercedes. A sound combination, says André, and with this low entry price, you're getting a lot of car for your money. And that price is just over 24,000 euros in Germany. But the basic version does include manually operated climate control and a forward collision warning system with emergency braking. Wondering why our carman Matis is wearing a woolly hat and scarf in the car? It's because when he's driving a convertible, he wants the roof down, no matter how cold it is outside. He just needs to reduce his speed to 50 kilometers an hour while opening the roof. It takes 12 seconds to open up the Jaguar F16. After nearly 40 years, the British marquis has finally come up with a worthy successor to the legendary E-Type. Jaguar long had plans to build this car, but it wasn't until 2013 that it finally went ahead. When it comes to looks, the F-Type has got to be one of the sleekest roadsters around. Matis likes the responsive steering. The suspension has the firmness you'd expect from a sports car, but on long journeys on uneven roads, it could get a bit strenuous after a while. Matis likes the way the instrument display is set out. The steering wheel has a sound grip. This handhold here is not really any use to the driver. It's presumably there for the passenger to hold on when the driver decides to put their foot down. The exterior is clearly inspired by the classic E-Type, with the trademark elegant shape. But the hood and the radiator grille aren't just a straight copy. Instead, Jaguar has gone for a more modern interpretation. The door handles disappear smoothly into the bodywork. The interior exudes that classic British understatement. 3 elegant dials take care of all the various onboard functions, giving an uncluttered feel. The hood opens forwards just like the E-Type, revealing, in this case, a 3-liter V6 engine. It delivers 280 kilowatts of power and takes 5.1 seconds to go from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour. Jaguar says the F-Type uses an average 8.9 liters of fuel for 100 kilometers and emits 211 grams of CO2 per kilometer. The devil is always in the detail, and Mattes has noticed a few things that unfortunately don't quite match his expectations of such an expensive car. Firstly, there's this little seam here on the door. Then the volume control for the radio. The knob is made of the same hard plastic as the other knobs, so you have to press quite hard to turn it without slipping. The paddle shifts on the steering wheel aren't so nice either. You can feel they've been put together with 2 simple pieces of plastic. Jaguar could have found a more elegant solution there. Mattes is now going to close the roof. Thanks to the interior heating and heated seats, it's actually quite okay to drive in cooler temperatures. But the noise level is something else. Particularly if you like to drive fast and for longer periods. It might be worth getting some earplugs. Otherwise, it's hard to bear for very long. Today, Mattes has been testing the F-Type with a 6-cylinder engine. It's also available with 8 cylinders, but if you just want to have fun and cruise around the countryside but also want to power ahead sometimes, he thinks the 6-cylinder unit is just fine. Mercedes has introduced a coupe edition of the C-Class. The AMG version now has an even more dynamic look and performance. It's powered by a 4-liter V8 bi-turbo engine that generates 350 kilowatts. And if that's not sporty enough for you, you can order the AMG S version, and that comes with an extra 25 kilowatts. The EcoSport, originally built in Brazil, has been given a major makeover. The changes were made by Ford to cater to customer demands. The latest edition will feature a new look and feel at the wheel, as well as updated engineering and connectivity. At the same time, the suspension has been adapted to European road conditions. Reinhold Deisenhofer says many people are unsure whether they really need winter tires. They might live in a city where it doesn't snow and be put off by the cost of a second set of tires. So are winter tires necessary or not? Bear in mind that the rubber compound in summer tires begins to harden as soon as temperatures dip close to 0, which can reduce traction considerably. Winter tires stay soft and offer more grip in cold conditions. Reinhold says you should switch to winter tires when daytime temperatures drop to 7 degrees Celsius. Over 24 hours, temperatures can dip considerably below that level, for example, early in the morning or late at night, and that affects driving safety. Winter tires are necessary in parts of northern continental Europe, for example, from October through Easter. You don't need a professional to change tires, by the way. With a good jack and right tools, you can do it yourself. First, loosen the wheel nuts about a quarter of a turn when the tires are still touching the ground. Then jack up one wheel at a time. While it's in the air, you can remove the wheel nuts and the wheel. Winter tires need to be fitted for all 4 wheels. If you don't, your car is likely to start skidding when you pull up sharp. When you're tightening the screws, work diagonally from one to the next so that the wheel doesn't become misaligned. You also have to check the torque values with a torque wrench to make sure the nuts are tightened to full pressure. If you drive with summer tires when it's cold, there's not just the risk of skidding. Your braking distances will also be significantly increased, and not just in wet, snowy, or icy conditions. At low temperatures, you need further to brake with summer tires, even when it's dry. It's worse when roads are wet and cold. If you're traveling at 90 kilometers per hour and at 0 degrees Celsius, braking distances increase by 5 meters 40 centimeters, the entire length of a car. When there's snow on the ground, stopping distances increase by 42 meters. Motor racing fans know that slicks offer maximum traction in dry conditions, but car treads that are worn smooth are dangerous in wet and snowy conditions. If winter tires have less than 4 millimeters tread, their performance is drastically reduced. Here the difference between summer and winter tires is particularly obvious, says Reinhold. The surface of the winter treads are covered with jagged slits designed to grip snow and ice. Summer tires need to cope with high speeds and also expel as much water as possible, so that they're also safe in damp or wet driving conditions. Having your tires inflated to the right pressure is equally important for both types. If they're not, fuel consumption and wear increase, as does the danger of blowouts. Checking your tire pressure doesn't cost anything, and it's very important. Each wheel has to support a quarter of the vehicle's weight. Our Seat Leon can weigh up to 500 kilos fully loaded. It's not the rubber, but the air that bears the load. If there's not enough air, the stress on the tire walls is so great that the tire can burst. But there's nothing to stop us using our winter tires in the summer, is there? Think again, says Reinhold. Winter tires have lower speed ratings, and the soft rubber compound is also a disadvantage when temperatures rise. If it's warm and rainy, you're more likely to skid with winter tires than summer ones, and stopping distances are also longer. BMW has given its C650 GT and C650 Sport a facelift. The changes in the C650 Sport are largely limited to the design. New lights at the front and the slim figure aim to give the maxi scooter a, well, sportier look. The C650 GT now comes with a new safety feature. It's already familiar to the car sector, but its introduction to the two-wheeler world sees BMW breaking new ground. Our reporter Rolf knows from experience that motorbike or scooter riders bend forward when turning. This is in order to try to compensate for the blind spot. In response, BMW decided to give one of the two scooters a new side view assist. Rolf wants to find out whether this is just a gimmick or whether it makes sense and might soon be seen in motorbikes too.
Oder ist es absolut sinnvoll und könnte bald schon auch in Motorrädern kommen.
At speeds of between 25 and 80 kilometers per hour, the Side View Assist, or SVA, informs the rider of any other vehicles within a 5-meter vicinity. The system then flashes up a warning triangle on the mirror stock of the C650 GT. The feature is ideal for urban conditions, says BMW Motorbike's executive Michael Heimrath. You have frequent lane changing and high traffic density, which is where the feature can help prevent accidents. The built-in sensors and a control module are in the right positions, as is the warning triangle in the stock of the mirror. The GT, which Rolf took for a ride, packs a 2-cylinder inline engine with 44 kilowatts. It makes the sprint from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in 7.5 seconds. ABS and automatic stability control are standard fitted. Rolf urges motorbike riders who scoff at larger scooters like this new BMW C650 GT to try one first. Yes, there are features that really are taboo. Heated grips, heated seat, and the continuously variable automatic transmission are not normally associated with motorbike riding, but this scooter offers plenty of comfort, great wind protection, and really packs a punch. The 2-cylinder engine, tilted forward by 70 degrees, has a far better response, which Rolf really appreciates in city traffic. The suspension is more sensitive, and in general, you really notice the technical advances. This is more than just a visual facelift. The design of the C650 GT has seen only minor modifications compared to the preceding model. There's a new rear lamp cluster, for example. On the practical side, an adjustable windshield powered by a handlebar-mounted switch. Also new is the automatic daytime riding light. In this mode, if the bike registers light conditions falling below a certain level, it will automatically switch from daytime to low beam. Riding around on the streets of Valencia has given Rolf the chance to check out the main new feature, Side View Assist. It's basically a blind spot alert, which many people say is too much for a two-wheeler. But Rolf was glad to have it on board. It's no replacement for looking over your shoulder, of course, but it really does boost safety when you need to switch lanes fast in city traffic. Rolf could well imagine this being introduced for motorbikes soon as well. A look now at an iconic car that has a huge following. Car tester Christoph Bauer is out and about in a Volkswagen Beetle convertible, exploring the mountain plateau of Lavarone in Italy. The Beetle Cabriolet was manufactured right up until 1980. It was first designed back before the Second World War. Christoph says these days the convertible is the epitome of freedom and independence. But in the 1930s, things were different. Those who could afford it bought a hardtop sedan, preferably with a chauffeur. There were always soft tops, but they tended to be very basic and quite a bit cheaper. So the Beetle, which was always intended as a car for the masses, obviously planned to have a convertible right from the start. The first prototype for the soft-top Beetle was built in 1936, although series production would not follow for many years. After the war, it was the hardtop models of the first Volkswagen that rolled off the assembly lines in Wolfsburg. In 1949, finally, the Beetle Cabriolet took to the road. And many were keen to get in on the action. Like the first 60 VW sedans, the pre-war soft-top prototype was built in the garage of Ferdinand Porsche's villa in Stuttgart. The Beetle Cabriolet was always based on the most expensive and powerful version of the Beetle sedan that was currently available. This model from 1979, for example, has the 1.6-liter engine from the VW 1303S, which was first manufactured in 1972 and was the most powerful Beetle engine ever to go into series production. It goes from 0 to 100 kilometers in 20 seconds. Yeah, nothing to get excited about there, but focusing on power and speed was always a taboo for VW. Their priority was reliability. That's a shame. A little more power would certainly suit the 1303 convertible. The 1979 Super Beetle, as it's known, had the best Beetle suspension of all time, distinguished by a coil spring and strut front suspension. This car that is more than 40 years old and with a pre-war design takes bends with astonishing and astounding ease. Christoph says the handling of the VW Beetle is very special. The steering is unbelievably responsive, effortless. Because the engine is at the back, it powers the rear axles and the wheels directly, providing endless traction. As Porsche fans know, this design setup can actually handle a lot more horsepower. In fact, the Porsche 924 that was designed together with VW drew on the Beetle design. Now that has to be the ultimate accolade for the Beetle suspension. The modern chassis that was introduced to the VW 1302 in 1970 allows for more space in the trunk, thanks to the longer front. From 1972, the 1303 came with a taller, curved windshield to comply with U.S. law, which required a greater distance between the driver and the windscreen. The modern-style padded dashboard was another concession to passive safety. At the rear, an air-cooled 1.6-liter boxer engine provides 50 horsepower. The exterior of the 1303 convertible reveals little technical progress. There are a few details, like the chunky taillights, that earned the nickname elephant's feet. But otherwise, the basic shape of the VW Beetle hardly changed in 30 years of production. But in the interior, there were big changes introduced in the 1970s. Plastic everywhere. In those days, that was state-of-the-art, of course, but today, you'd love to just have a little chrome here and there instead. But the robust soft-top design was retained. The roof can be shut in a few simple steps, keeping out that summer rain. Simple and practical. Right from the start, the soft-top version of the Beetle cost around one-third more than the sedan. Still, sales for the Cabriolet boomed for over 3 decades. Christoph says 4-seater convertibles have a long-standing tradition in automotive history. But in the 1970s, they were a dying breed, with just 2 models left. The VW Cabriolet, which sold for 14,000 Deutschmarks, and the Rolls-Royce Corniche convertible for 180,000 Deutschmarks. So you can guess which model ensured the 4-seater convertible survived. Rolls-Royce sold 3,000 cars in total, while VW sold 20,000 convertibles a year. After more than 20 years of production, the Beetle Cabriolet finally reached its zenith in the 1303. Robust, reliable, equipped with a modern suspension, and capable of a top speed of 130 kilometers per hour. And yet the Beetle's days were numbered. For years, the soft-top Beetle was considered the world's best-selling convertible. During 31 years of production, over 330,000 vehicles rolled off the assembly lines. Only in 1991 was it overtaken by the VW Golf. When it was announced in 1978 that production of the Beetle Cabriolet was to end, fans stormed the VW dealers to snap up the last remaining cars, which is pretty rare in the fast-moving automotive industry. So the VW convertible is definitely a milestone in automotive history. Driving with the wind in your hair, the Beetle Cabriolet proved convertibles don't have to be an unaffordable luxury, and in so doing has guaranteed that the soft top lives on.